Alright, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today, I finally reviewed the Salomon QST Blank. But first off, I just want to let you know, I paid for the demo of these skis myself. They were not provided to me by Salomon. I was not paid to do this review. I spent my own money on this demo so I could give you the truth about the Salomon QST Blank. So if you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. Now, let's just get right into the review. These are a 186 centimeter length. They have a 112 millimeter width underfoot, and the turning radius on these is 17 meters. These are the big boy skis. This is the widest ski in the Salomon QST lineup, and I gotta be honest, if you're looking at these skis, you better be looking at some big snow to ski them in. These skis come in at a whopping 2,220 grams in the 186, but that's kind of to be expected with a ski this big. It's a lot of material. These do not use any kind of metal dampening. This is that wood core, same as the QST 106, and it's got that kind of double sidewall construction going on as well. These skis use a full poplar wood core, and the laminate is a carbon weave. It's basically a fiber layer of carbon and flax combined with that same to the 106, a cork damplifier. It's kind of a word for amplifying dampness, I don't know. That's what Salomon uses. It's using cork inside to make it more damp. And I gotta say, for not heavy metal, these skis are very stable, similar to the 106, so very cool construction. In order to fully understand the Salomon QST Blank, first we need to talk about its kind of next closest relative, the QST 106. So these are my personal skis. These are the Salomon QST 106 from 2023, but it's the same as 2024, just different graphic. And these are the QST Blanks. These are 6 millimeters wider underfoot. They also have a more aggressive splay in the tips. This is a softer version than the 106. They've got a little bit more splay and a little bit easier to flex. They don't have as much like kind of bottom end when you're turning and carving. They are a little bit softer and a little bit flexier. The other difference you're gonna see is not only in the tip splay, but also in the tail splay. Granted, this QST 106 is 4 centimeters shorter, but still you can see kind of that exaggerated splay in the QST Blanks. Now that you can see kind of how the construction is different, let me talk about how they ski, because they ski very differently from the QST 106s. I would say while the QST 106 certainly isn't a carving specialist, it still has a lot of that shape towards the tip where it's got that second bulge. The QST Blank is pretty much uniform all the way through. There's a slight bulge here. With that width, you lose a lot of the shape out of the ski. The other big difference you can actually notice is in the camber. These don't have a ton of camber, being a 106 and being mostly powder, but they do have a pretty good amount, which allows you to kind of pop in and out of the turns, have a little grip when you're carving. It's not a ton, but it's enough to kind of get you off the ground and get you going. These QST Blanks, on the other hand, have very little to almost no camber. A lot of the ski's shape, when you look at it this way, is more in the tails and the tips, but there is only just the slightest sliver of camber, which makes sense because this ski's primary job is powder, not carving. Now let's talk first impressions. My first impressions, honestly, were very heavily based around how the ski is different from the QST 106, because I own the QST 106, so the QST Blank has a few things that really set it apart. One, obviously with the extra width and the extra splay, these float a lot better. They actually kind of go through more varieties of snow, better than the QST 106. They also are a little bit boxier, a little bit more surfy, you honestly really, with the QST 106, you can kind of carve and then surf off the end. You can kind of jump between carving and surfing. It's not great carving, it's mostly surfing, but there's a little bit there. This thing, you have to be devoted to the surf. You have to only be surfing. You have to only wash out your turns. If you get up some speed into some rough chop, you need to just be able to throw the skis and spray some snow. This ski is 100% devoted to the surf, but it surfs very well. So that was kind of the first impression I got. It was also like very fun to kind of hop around. I felt like jumping was a lot more friendly on these, so you kind of had more spring. It was easier to do hop turns, so some cool stuff there. Now let's talk about the good, and then we'll talk about the bad. Similar to the QST 106, I'm going to be scoring these as just a powder ski, but I want everyone to keep in mind, I'm going to be judging this as a chairlift skier. Somebody who is going to powder that you can access via the chair, your average powder skier. I know that these skis can be taken for touring. I'm aware that they can be used really well for heli skiing, cat skiing, things like that. And I think they do really well with that. But my assessment of them is coming from skiing off the chair on a powder day. And I think that a lot of people buying them are honestly probably more in that camp than how many people are out cat skiing and heli skiing. I do think this would be a great backcountry ski. I'm not big on AT skiing, but I could see the appeal just because when I had to hike around a little bit, I really noticed how well these kind of trudge through snow. Just so you're aware of where my score's coming from before we get started. So first, the good. These skis float so well. I mean, it's no surprise when you watch my QST 106 review, I really like the way the QST skis surf. You kind of have your skis close together. It feels very similar to a snowboard, just in like that really good feeling, really clean. You can make hop turns a little bit better than the 106. I really found myself enjoying and getting through snow that I didn't think I'd be able to. So these are a great platform to surf on top of powder. They are really fun in the snow. I think the deeper the snow, the better. I was able to find some untouched snow, and that's kind of where this ski shines. When you have the first track on a snowy area, this ski is above and beyond good. I'm really, really impressed with the ski. I think the mechanics of how you make turns while you're on the powder, it's like the smoothest turns I have ever had on powder of any ski I've ever been on. This is just the #1 powder ski. If I was going on a helicopter tomorrow to powder ski, this would be my first choice. This is a phenomenal, phenomenal powder ski. Yeah, I felt like it could make little quick turns. I was really impressed by how quickly it turned in the woods. I was amazed by when I got speed, these did not chatter. You know, that cork dampener is no joke. It's really working. I think this ski all around just performs at the highest level of what it's good at. Yeah, this ski, when it's kind of put under the gun in the best conditions of the day, it will not let you down. There are no wasted powder days when it comes to the Salomon QST Blank. I do think that for this ski, in order for you to fully enjoy it, you have to be really devoted. You have to say, this is my powder ski, this is what I'm doing, and I will wait for good conditions. So that's the good, but if you're willing to wait for those days and you want a good powder ski and you're doing big lines and large amounts of snow, I think this is the most reliable ski you could put on your feet for powder skiing. The other good thing about this ski is that I actually found with having a wider, longer ski, there was a wider range of snow that these could plow through. So I got into some like sticky snow in lower elevations, and these actually did better than the QST 106. We had fresh snow and then a little bit of like kind of old snow underneath, and these actually charged through it really well. So I will say that was a point towards the QST Blank, and I do think that these can serve a wider range of snow conditions. Now, let's talk about the bad. This ski has a few more kind of holes in its armor than the QST 106. First off, let me just say that skiing a ski this wide all day, like I went hard today, is really hard on your hips. It is so much ski to move. I felt like my foot really, like in my ski boot, was working overtime. When you make the hop turns, you have a lot of ski to move around. This is just a very wide ski. And I think that, like I said before, you have to be really devoted. Like, I don't know how many days the average chairlift skier would actually get out of these. Realistically, like, I think being optimistic, you might get 10 days out of these a year, if not less. So I think if you're gonna buy these skis, buy it knowing, hey, these are for cat skiing, I have a big trip coming up, maybe they're for backcountry skiing when it's fresh, untouched snow. But for the average person, I don't know how many days you would actually use these. So, I mean, maybe you're gonna buy them and you say, hey, I'm gonna ski on them for 5-10 years because they're just gonna last that long, sure. But it's a lot of ski and it's exhausting, and I don't think there's a lot of days I would actually wanna have these on my feet. I think it would be only like the top handful of days per year. If you're skiing 50 days a year, you're probably gonna only want these 10. If you're only skiing like 25 days a year, you know, it kind of narrows down. So you have to be really committed and in an area that gets enough snow. I don't think there's anyone on the East Coast, unless you're doing backcountry and finding those like powder stashes, it's probably half as many days for people on the East Coast. So keep that in mind. I think that there's a temptation for people to kind of go all in on a big powder ski, and I don't think there's actually that many days where people would really want to use these. The other drawbacks of this ski is you have to be devoted to washing out your turns and surfing on these. The QST 106 allows you to surf and carve when you need to. When I was on the cat tracks, when I was on the groomers getting between lines, there's no carving on these. You can load up a turn and like, you know, way later it'll make a stable platform for you, but it does not have clean turn initiation. It won't give you your energy out. These are purely for powder. And that's to be expected, but I just want somebody to know that don't expect any carving out of these. Despite the shape, there's really not much there. This is for hop turns, this is for surfing, this is for washing out your turns. It's not a huge downside, but if you're buying it, you should know about it because the carving is not there like the QST 106 is. The other thing I found is that with that, you can't kind of initiate your turns and have them scoop in. You really need to do a lot of work with your hip movement to get these turned even in the powder. When you're skiing in the powder, you have to really wash things out. You have to be ready to make your kind of pull plant turns. Also, these are heavy, so if you get into the woods and you get into bramble or trees like I like to, these can be more difficult. They do a good job for their length and width, but it's still a lot of ski to get around. So especially when I found myself in bramble, it's better to just avoid that stuff. You want open fields of powder, or if you're not there first thing in the morning and it gets skied off, you kind of miss it with these skis. The QST 106s, you can find good lines and make little kind of turns in there and enjoy it. These skis, you almost have to have first tracks to really enjoy things fully, which means that like skiing in these all day is one, exhausting on your hips, but two, it's not ideal because when you get into chop or skied off runs, like if there's anyone else via chairlift access, their performance goes down progressively throughout the day. I mean, that's like all conditions, but these skis really struggle more than other skis in skied off areas. So this is a ski for like first tracks, big powder, big days where you're not getting chop or you're not getting skied off areas that someone else has already kind of beaten you to. Overall, I think that these are great skis for what they're intended, which is big mountain, big open lines, fresh powder, and deep snow. But if we're being honest, there's not actually that many days where I would want these over the QST 106, and this ski sacrifices so much in shape and turn style and just fun between lines of powder that I don't think I would recommend these for somebody who is skiing off of a chairlift. Unless you're in Snowbird or just somewhere like Jackson that's getting a ton of snow, or Mammoth, Tahoe maybe, somewhere that gets just heaps of snow, this might be really fun. But for the average chairlift goer, I think you're better off with the QST 106. I mean, that's just my opinion. I own the QST 106 and I demoed these, and I wish I had the QST 106 today because there's just a wider range that you can ski, and I don't think the sacrifice on most days with this turn shape and the lack of turn radiuses you can make is worth it. I think 106 is plenty of width, and I think these are a little bit overkill. So now we've talked about the good, we've talked about the bad. And like I said before, these are most days a little bit overkill. I'm not expecting these skis to carve, but I'd like a little bit more turn shape. And the fact that the QST 106 can do all of that and still perform in 90% of the conditions that this ski does, this ski is really kind of a specialty tool, and I would rather be on the QST 106 for 9 out of 10 of the days. There'd only be one day with really big giant powder, and even then by noontime, these aren't going to perform as well as the 106. I don't think they're bad. I just think that for the average user, these are overkill, and they honestly feel a little bit like a stretched out 106. Some of their turn style, it really is forcing you to wash out every kind of turn. It doesn't kind of hook in, even in a powder setting. It's really all washed out turns, but the trade-off is it can kind of charge through bigger and heavier snow than the QST 106. So you have to kind of pick your poison. Only you can decide what ski is best for you. But in my opinion, the QST 106 just covers a much more diverse range of lines, like, you know, in the trees you can enjoy it. You can find powder stashes easier in the 106. This ski is very limited by its size, its bulk, its weight, and throughout the day, this is a hard ski to stay on, just based on the dwindling snow conditions and how hard that extra width is on your hips and joints. So for me, I like the ski a lot, but the QST 106 behind me is a better ski. I am going to give this, for a powder ski, an 8.6. Like I said before, I'm not expecting it to carve, but its turn shape overall is a little bit disappointing. It really has to have washed out hopping turns, and the amount of days you'd be able to ski on this and the snow conditions, like how long in the day you're gonna really enjoy this, is very limited. Overall, great performance. Like I said before, if I was going heli skiing or cat skiing, this is what I would bring with me if I could make that choice. But I think from somebody who skis on the chairlift realistically, the QST 106 is an overall better choice. So that's my opinion on the QST Blank. Again, it's an 8.6. It's a stellar ski, but everything has to kind of line up perfectly in order for this ski to be the best choice. So that's my honest review. Again, I still really like these. I'm glad I tried them out. Today I was skiing on, I don't know, it's hard to gauge because stuff gets really windblown, but in the fresh stuff I would say it was close to 7 inches of snow. Maybe 5 to 7, I don't know. I'm not the best at assessing that. You could argue, sure, in a foot of snow these would have performed better, but in those deeper pockets, I got a feel for what these can do, and I had some open faces where I had first tracks, and they did perform well. But being realistic, how often are you actually getting first tracks? How many days could you really go out and enjoy these versus the QST 106? There isn't enough of a difference for this to be worth it, in my opinion. Now, if you're a backcountry skier, that's different. If you're going cat skiing, heli skiing, that's different. But for the average person, let's be honest, the QST 106 is doing a lot more for you than the QST Blank. These are still great skis. I would never be upset having these on a powder day. They're definitely more limited, and they just require a whole different level of devotion to a washed out turn than their thinner counterpart. Like I said before though, that's just my honest opinion. I think the construction's really cool, but I think the QST 106 does a little bit more with it. That all being said, I paid for this demo myself, paid money out of my own pocket, so thank you everyone for supporting me. I use the money that I get from YouTube to demo these skis, so with your support, I'm able to afford it. I can't, I can only demo so many, right, based on what I make from YouTube, but because of you guys, I'm able to go out and test out these skis. So that's my honest opinion. That's absolutely what I think. If you want to support the channel, like I said before, there's some affiliate links. You can become a member, and I'll give you ski fitting advice and even skiing advice, depending on which tier you're in. But as always, more than anything, just thank you for watching. That really means the most to me, that you guys actually click on the channel, you actually watch my reviews, and all of your comments are super engaging. So thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you guys just being here. That's all I have to say about the QST Blank, but as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya. Seeing this stuff, I get it. I get the blanks.